I'm Daryn Carp, the Walrus, with John Thrasher,
Oh.
who's a pig with wings, because
Ha-
that's part of the Lewis Carroll. Yeah, yeah, I
Wow.
said it. I said it.
Yeah.
I said
Yeah.
it. I said what
Yeah.
we've all been thinking, John.
Wow. Wait, what is
Uh,
tell me what you're doing here because I don't appreciate that. It was just my
the
birthday.
Lewis Carroll poem, "The Time Has Come," the
Okay.
Walrus said, "to talk of many things,
Oh,
of
here
shoes
we
and chips
go.
and sealing wax, of cabbages and kings,
Okay.
and why the sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings. And you are the pig with wings, and I am the walrus, and that is just the way this life works." Anyway, welcome to Shaken and Disturbed, everyone.
Again, by the way, I just
Yeah,
want to
just
interrupt
reintroing.
here.
Yeah,
She just
sorry.
did this on the NMR that was posted
I
on
did.
Patreon. So if you're a Patreon listener, apologies to you,
Yeah,
you know.
sorry about that. Sorry for the double. I just need to make John aware of all Lewis Carroll poems.
Hmm.
But John, I'm excited. You look 31 years old.
1 years old.
See?
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah, I like that.
It's just a simple math. I didn't say
I like that.
38. I didn't.
No, you didn't
I
say
wouldn't have.
28, which is what you said
I wouldn't
last
have
week,
said
which
38 because that would have been right.
well, I don't know about that, to be honest with you. I think
Yeah, that would
age,
have been
what,
right.
I don't want to be labeled. You know what I
I get it.
mean? I don't
I
like
get it.
labels in 2024, including my age.
You're just a
No, I'm
38-year-old
38.
pig with wings. It's
Oh
fine.
my
You don't like
God.
labels.
Painful.
Whatever you need. But happy belated birthday. This is the
Thank you,
last
I
time I will
think.
repeat from NMR. I think
Yeah. Darren's
that was
laughing.
good.
Yeah.
But we have a really exciting case this week. It
Yeah.
feels weird to say exciting because none of them should be exciting, more so just like interesting,
Yeah, it's
informative.
interesting, it's
Um,
disturbing, it gets us going in terms of getting our brain kind of all the synapses that happens in our brains. Yeah, I agree
yeah.
with you.
Well, I want you, birthday boy, belated
Mm.
birthday boy,
Mhm.
to start off this week.
I shall. Let's get right into it. So, on the afternoon of Saturday, July 29th, 48-year-old Erin Patterson was preparing lunch for her family, and she cooked a dish of beef Wellington topped with
Hmm.
mushrooms that she planned to serve to her estranged husband, Simon, and his parents, Don and Gail. Now, Erin and Simon had enjoyed years of happy marriage, but had separated fairly recently. Um, and he'd left Erin and their two children in the marital home while the couple sort of sorted out their next steps. Erin seemed to want a reconciliation, and this family meal together might have felt a little bit like a step in the right
That's what
direction.
I'm thinking. Like, this
Yeah,
seems cordial. She's making lunch for his parents. It's nice.
exactly. Yeah, she's making dinner for everybody and she's trying to like sort of show maybe even like her housewife abilities, for lack of a better term there, but
Sure.
that was at least until Simon, contacted Erin at the last minute, letting her know that he was actually unable to make it for this particular meal, for this lunch. Instead, Erin and her in-laws would be joined by Gail's sister Heather and her husband, a reverend actually named Ian. Now the
Okay,
group
this
of
is all right. Lunch
yeah,
popping off. I
I
hate last
know.
minute plans of like -1, add two.
Oh,
It's just,
100%.
I'm
Like
not great at that. I need to be better at it, but I'm
and
not
let me
great
tell
at
you
it,
something.
admittedly.
There was a time like 10 or so years ago where and I feel like you can really relate to this too, I'm sure, where everybody in New York was always wanting to go to brunch constant. And I'm sure that still happens. I'm
People
just
love
saying
a brunch. I
and
don't get it.
I was in a friend group that loved brunch. I hate brunch personally. I really don't want anything to do with brunch. Just
It's
gets
just a late
annoying.
lunch. I mean, what is the
Yeah.
difference if you're eating at 11:30 or eating at 1:30? It's all lunch.
It's all lunch, guys, and it doesn't need to be I don't know, mimosas aren't my thing either,
I don't want
really.
to drink during the day anymore. I'm
I
done.
don't either, and especially not with orange juice, to be honest. I mean, listen, a mimosa from time to time is good, but I don't know. Anyway,
It was
nonetheless.
like when we made no money and you had those bottomless ones where
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
when you were like 23 and you could drink all the alcohol in the world.
Right.
That I loved,
That's
but
true.
now, no.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Well, anyway, as mentioned, the group arrived at Aaron's home and sat down for lunch that Aaron had prepared earlier that day. Now, the meal did not seem to agree with Aaron, who experienced a severe upset stomach later that evening.
but she
Shout
did
out
make the lunch.
She did make the lunch, and, shout out to Taco Bell on this topic of, not agreeing with you sometimes.
Yes, and you buying it and you being and you know that going
Mhm,
into
and
it. You're like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do this. It's like when you eat buffalo, like buffalo anything, like a buffalo chicken wrap. You're
that
like,
doesn't happen to me.
my stomach's gonna hate me, but I'm going to enjoy this.
I get where people come from with that, but I love buffalo. I don't have
Me
that
too.
reaction. Yeah, I don't have that reaction to it. But anyway, That was so funny. Like, and to those of you who willingly purchase.
Sometimes we volunteer for this.
So funny. Anyway, Erin was all this isn't a funny episode, but we're
No.
laughing at other details, you guys. So anyway, Erin was also far from the only one that fell ill, frankly, after this lunch. The following day, Dawn, Gail, Heather, and her husband were all taken to the hospital after becoming extremely unwell. Hospital staff determined that the symptoms shown by all four patients were extremely similar to those displayed by people who were poisoned by, really interesting name here, death cap mushrooms.
Ooh.
Interesting.
I
So
in my older years, I've become less fond of mushrooms than I used to.
opposite for me. I love them. A
But you
baby
used to not
Bella.
like them.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like not like them, but now I have an extreme fondness for
I
them.
like I like the ones that come on like pizza, like the
Yeah,
normal,
me
like if you're
too.
thinking of a normal mushroom,
Sure,
whatever that's
sure.
called.
Oh,
I like
mushroom on
that. But you know,
pizza.
when it's like every restaurant now has like a side, like a fungi medley with like all different mushrooms. I
Oh,
could
yeah,
do
that
without
I
that.
don't know about. That
Yeah,
I
I could do
won't think
without
about.
that.
I
Yeah.
did read just while we're on this topic though, for real, I did read an article recently about how mushrooms are extremely, extremely good for you in terms of like anti-cancer related, not treatment, but like prevention, I think. I
Yeah.
don't want to like spread misinformation here on the show, but look it up in scholarly sources because there have been studies.
You heard it here first. Eat a mushroom, never get sick again. Heard
Well,
it here
listen, I'm
first.
just saying it was
Not
interesting
we're
nonetheless,
quoting you now.
but not these death cap mushrooms, you guys. Now, these death cap mushrooms contain a toxin that actually stops human
Ooh,
organs, specifically livers and kidneys, from repairing themselves.
seems like a
You,
big
you got to
thing.
keep your liver and kidney going. You know what I mean? When someone ingests a death cap, they will not experience any physical symptoms for about the first 6 hours. When they will start to feel fairly standard symptoms of food poisoning, which are like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, everything that sounds like the worst possible scenario. So stage 2 is a bit of an anomaly. The poisoned individual starts to feel better for the next day or two, but this is a little bit of a red herring as there is still a massive amounts of damage occurring to their liver and kidneys in those moments,
Mm,
despite the feeling of improvement. So it's really like almost being cursed or some kind
it's
of like,
tricking you.
witch
Yeah.
hex. Yeah, exactly. Well, eventually, the kidney and the liver damage begins to show symptoms, which can include jaundice, seizures, and even a comatose state, all of which, of course, grow worse as the organs fail and start shutting down. So, really, an atrocious way to sort of, get poisoned.
Very apropos of its name, obviously. That's
Definitely.
obviously how it got it. Now, we currently have no antidote against death cap mushrooms. Past a certain point, the only way to save the life of someone who has eaten one is via organ transplant, which is hard enough
Wow.
to do in this country. Now, death caps are responsible for approximately 90% of all mushroom related deaths. Approximately 10 to
Wow.
30% of those who consume a death cap mushroom will die as a direct result. Now, 10
That's
to 10 to
wild.
30%, certainly that feels maybe low compared to like given the fact that you'd kind of almost think it'd be 100%, but I don't know how common these things are, but
Yeah.
10 to
I'm looking that
30%
up,
is
actually.
pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah, please look at that. Now, because of
Yeah.
the uncommonness of mushroom related deaths, it could take several weeks for the exact toxin to be determined after someone has died. But with testing, scientists are able to conclusively pinpoint when they are a cause of death. So we're getting a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, when asked about what they'd eaten recently, their stories all included the beef Wellington served by Erin, which had indeed been served and topped with mixed mushrooms. And now I'm
Mm.
thinking,
A medley, like Darren
why would
said.
she eat it?
Right, of course. Well, maybe she made regular baby Bella and then
Baby.
ate
I gotta look up
those.
what a baby Bella mushroom is because
Yeah, those are the ones that I believe are the ones you're talking about that usually go on
yeah, a
pizza.
baby Bella. I like a baby Bella.
Yeah,
I like a
yeah.
baby Bella. And when you cook a baby Bella,
Delish, just the right
delish.
texture. And now
The
I looked
smell,
the smell. I looked up the death cap and I'm afraid to tell you guys that they look like those typical mushrooms that you would see in like your yard or in the trees behind your house or something. I don't know exactly, we're just kind of jumping here onto the show to look into it, but I don't
they're
know.
longer than a baby Bella, and they
Okay.
have like to me a lighter hood or whatever we're calling well, your cap.
Hood, cap. Yeah. Well, there's a death cap there. Have you ever heard of the band Death Cab
Yeah,
for Cutie?
I have. I was just
Okay.
gonna say death
Okay.
cab for cutie.
For Cutie.
Um,
Yep.
okay,
Anyway,
so they all claimed they ate the beef Wellington, which was
right.
served by Erin. Now, the four were admitted to the hospital for treatment, and the health department contacted Erin to retrieve a sample of the lunch served to the four patients. Uh,
Interesting.
she's like, I got some leftovers
Yeah.
right
She's
here.
like, do you
Now,
want a leftover of my death
yeah,
cap
it's
soup?
in my Tupperware.
Right.
On Sunday evening, another person was admitted to the local Leogatha hospital with suspected food poisoning. On Monday, they were transported by ambulance to
Mm.
the Monash Medical Center in Melbourne. Now, the patient was put on a saline drip and given a liver protective drug. On August 4th, Gail and her sister Heather passed away while still undergoing
Mm.
treatment. Don, Aaron's former father in law, passed away the following day,
Oh,
while
wow.
Reverend Wilkinson remained alive but in critical condition. So, bad news all around.
Yeah, definitely.
Death by lunch.
Yeah. And by the way, she had those leftovers, so we're going to get to the bottom of that soon.
Yes, and we are.
Following Dawn's death, police executed a search warrant on Erin's home and questioned her about the meal that she shared with the four victims. I'm like, what's the search warrant for the refrigerator? For the
Yeah.
Tupperware? Erin
Yes.
declined to answer any of their questions and was released, but remained a person of interest to authorities. There were a lot of questions surrounding the fact that Erin and her children seemed totally unharmed. Now, how could
Mm.
that be if everyone had eaten the same meal? Although this could be intentional, But
Could be intentional, could be amount she put in. To your
yeah,
point, she
yeah,
could
yeah,
have switched in mushrooms and we
yeah.
don't know.
Erin did help clarify this point by telling police that she too had felt unwell the evening after the meal and had sought medical attention at that same hospital. Presumably, she was the unnamed patient the facility had treated for
Mm.
food poisoning symptoms. As for the children, by the way, unnamed patient, I mean, we'll have to figure out exactly what
Why?
year this was happening because I don't know of any place you can just go in and be anonymous and get
Uh,
treated, but okay. As for the children, Aaron told police that the children had gone to the movies before lunch and hadn't eaten when they'd gotten back. They had later eaten the beef Wellington for dinner, but neither child liked mushrooms, so she had scraped them off before reserving the dish. When
hmm.
police, this is a lot of like, and then I cooked and then I reheated up the macaroni.
But
It's like,
they yeah,
what?
but they did eat the hand that was
Yeah,
cooked in the stew,
right.
and you're like, "All right."
Well, yeah, where are we going here? So, when police asked specifically about the origins of the mushrooms served at lunch, because at this point you assume that police are maybe tipped off a little bit about the poisoning of it all, right? Potentially.
Sure.
Erin told authorities that she had bought a mixture of button mushrooms at a major grocery store and combined them with some dried mushrooms that she
Ooh,
purchased prior at an Asian grocery store, and the whole mix had been served atop of the beef Wellington. Can I be honest with you? At this point, I just told you about how much I love mushrooms. I'm getting a
dried?
little freaked out about,
I know.
like, I'm like, yeah, these are actually could be poisonous. Like, a lot of other foods you don't have to like bananas. You don't really have to worry about bananas poisoning you as much, right?
Or
But
peppers or
or
something of that
literally
sort.
maybe any other produce in
Yeah.
that way. But okay.
Curious though, I mean, like, in just knowing what we know, in theory, it does seem weird that you bought, like, 2 different kinds of mushrooms to put on top of it, like, dried being
Mm,
one and then, it just doesn't
yeah.
that doesn't feel like you'd combine it, but at the same time, it does also feel harmless.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, maybe she just wanted to try a new recipe
Right,
for all we know
exactly.
at this point. Well, it's also worth noting that the Department of Health had no alerts out for any mushroom sales, nor were there any reported issues of recalls amongst local Asian mushroom growers or sellers. So after the three deaths, police had begun investigating into potential causes, including murder, although one of the lead detective inspectors made sure this to state publicly to the media, quote, I would like to say that because the homicide squad is investigating this matter, it doesn't automatically mean that the deaths are suspicious. I'm not aware of an investigation where we've had three people die as a result of an apparent food poisoning, whether that be by mushroom or something else. So, yes, it is quite unique. End
Well, I think it
quote.
is important to say that, right? Because I
For
think
sure. Yeah.
homicide squad, everyone's assuming this was a
Right.
murder of some sort, but it isn't clear. And so I do think to save Aaron, it does feel like kind of important to say that.
And it's a great example of proper police communication because there could be even
Yeah.
other people in the community or surrounding community that would be worried about this, but they're like, listen, here's what we know. We're not ruling
Right.
everything out just yet. So by this time, police hadn't ruled out murder, and they were very aware that each victim's last meal had been the beef Wellington prepared by Erin. It's just so funny that I keep mentioning beef Wellington in a murder case like this. Like it really
Well,
is like the culprit. You know what I
it
mean?
really is.
Well, during this conversation, police asked Erin about a food dehydrator that she owned, and she told them that she'd thrown it away, quote, a long time ago. Sometime after this conversation,
Hmm.
a local garbage dump got into touch with authorities about a food dehydrator that they had recently received from a recent pickup haul. So that's kind of amazing, right? Like
Also, how did they know about it?
that's what I'm saying. Like the police are looking for a food dehydrator, but how did the local garbage company know to look this up? I mean,
Right.
it just shows you how.
No, but how did even the police know about the food dehydrator? That's not something that
Oh,
like
that's
everyone
true.
has.
Yeah, maybe they were able to like figure out the mushroom
She got dried
situation.
mushrooms. Maybe they
Yeah.
didn't come dried. I don't know.
Yeah, something is up here. Well, the managers believe that the dehydrator had come from Aaron's house and the crew had only just received it in their collection. Authorities were able to confirm, in fact, that the dehydrator did indeed originate at Aaron's home. Now, how did they do that? I'm just curious. I don't know.
I'm sure that they could have figured out based on, there has to be some type of maybe my mom actually knows about this because she
Oh,
was in like landfills and stuff as an engineer because she's an
oh,
environmental
right,
engineer and
right.
she works with garbage. So she might
Yeah,
know that there has to be something that determines like at this time came from this
yeah.
zone,
Well,
there has to be something like that just because there was a lot of stuff in garbage and
yeah.
timing of it. I'll ask my mom, maybe she might know.
By the way, I doubt you even have to ask her, right? Because I have a feeling she's going to be
She's
listening and
gonna
giving
she's
us our
gonna
feedback. Zooey's notes. It's a whole
That's right.
thing. Yep.
Well, by early August, the media had become acutely aware of Erin's potential involvement and had begun waiting outside her home in the hopes of securing a statement from her.
And this might be why
But
the garbage company knew about it, right? Because it's clear that this is making its way around at least the neighborhood and the community and maybe even, a
exactly.
bigger territory wherever this is going down.
Right, because throwing out a food dehydrator doesn't seem
That's
like that
not
big of a deal.
suspicious. Yeah.
No. Now, on August the 7th, the Australian Health Department were able to conclusively confirm that death cap mushrooms were, in fact, the cause of death.
Wow.
That same day, Erin finally addressed the horde outside her home for the first time, and she said this quote, "It's a tragedy what's happened. I'm so devastated by what's happened, by the loss. Don is still in the hospital, but of Ian and Heather Gale, they were some of the best people I've ever met. Gail was like the mom I didn't have because my mom passed away 4 years ago. Gail has never been anything but good and kind to me. Ian and Heather were some of the best people I've ever met. I'm so devastated by what's happened. I lost the community, and my own children lost their grandparents." End quote.
Sounds heartfelt. I mean, for lack,
Right. It's hard to say how she says it, but like,
yeah, right.
listen, if it's true, because she's, as of now in the story, not up for it, like, imagine how devastating that is,
Yeah,
especially
for
when she
sure.
wants to get her soon to be ex husband back.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah, right. Or does
The media,
she?
or does she? Now,
Mm.
the media seemed unsatisfied with her statement and asked her about the meal, specifically where the mushrooms may have come from.
Right, because
Aaron's
that's not to interrupt you, sorry, but it's like, okay, we've determined that this mushroom, this death cap mushroom, is the reason. Now, where did it come from? What was the
right.
intention? I mean, the media should absolutely be unsatisfied with that statement at this point.
Well, Aaron's only reply to this, though, was, "What I can tell you is that I just can't fathom what has happened." Now, this could be for a number of reasons. This could be for a shock factor. It does seem weird that she would kind of dodge the whole, even if she was just like, I have no idea. I can't think right now. Like, give me a minute.
Right, right.
Well, Aaron's ex husband, Simon, who also felt compelled to speak to the media, but with substantially more details to share. Now, Simon spoke with the Herald Sun right around the
Interesting.
same time Aaron gave her own media interview. He told journalists a jarring story that seemed to line up with the murder suspicions that had begun circulating around his ex wife. Now, Simon recounted an instance back in 2022 where
Mhm.
he became so ill at home that he'd collapsed and needed to be put into medically induced coma for 16 days
What?
while recovering from the mystery stomach issue.
This is such an
Wow.
interesting detail. I mean, go ahead here because I know there's more.
During that time, he needed to undergo 3 emergency surgeries on his small intestine while his family were called to the hospital 2 different times to say goodbye to him. Holy shit.
Wow.
At the time of the interview, Simon was reportedly doing much better, but had a chronic case of weakness in one of his shoulders.
And this is one of those scenarios where, like, the police don't know this, like, unless they, like, were really digging into Erin as a person of interest. And by the way, this is in Australia, so I don't know exactly how, the Justice Department unfolds there, but, let's just say it's similar to the United States. They'd have to really think that Erin was a clear person of interest, dig into her, then dig into her life, and then dig into her ex, and then interview him to be like, "Hey, did anything kind of weird happen with," that's a lot of layers to an
You have to put two and two
investigation.
together in a
Yeah.
lot of, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily intuitive, to your point.
Right. That's my point. So on August 10th, a friend of Erin spoke to the media about the lunch, stating that Erin had planned to use the meeting to try and reconcile with Simon, saying, quote, she wanted to get back with Simon and the family didn't want Simon to get back with her, end quote.
Mm.
Simon's family had supposedly double crossed Erin by suggesting Simon decline the invitation at the last minute and bringing along Reverend Wilkinson as a mediator to help talk her down from the idea of reconciliation. On August 14th, Erin sent a letter to both the police and the Australian Broadcasting Company, where she initially expressed remorse for not speaking to the police immediately after her family was poisoned. She
Hmm.
opened the letter by apologizing for and admitting to lying to the police and expressing a desire to, quote, come clean. And this letter says, quote, I am not wanting to clear up the record because I have become extremely stressed and overwhelmed by the deaths of my loved ones. I am hoping this statement might help in some way. I believe if people understood the background more, they would not be so quick to rush to judgment. I am now devastated to think that these mushrooms may have contributed to the illness suffered by my loved ones. I really want to repeat that I had absolutely no reason to hurt these people whom I loved, end quote. I mean, it's a convincing, compelling kind of sound. Of course, I'm using my own inflection here,
Presumption of
but
innocence.
yeah,
Presumption of innocence so far.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Aaron's letter details the events of the lunch. She'd prepared the mushrooms from the button and dehydrated Asian mixture. She'd served up the plates, but allowed her guests to pick which plate they wanted. And she'd eaten the remaining plate herself, she says. Aaron also spoke about how the children had eaten the food later, but she'd prepared it for them by scraping the mushrooms off because neither child liked mushrooms, as we had said.
Same story. Yeah.
She then spoke about her own hospitalization as a result of mushroom poisoning, although her bout was much less severe than the others. Erin explained how she'd provided toxologists a sample of the lunch when asked and had done her best to try to direct police to the stores where she'd purchased the mushrooms, although was unable to remember the names of the shops in question.
That does
Okay,
seem a little odd.
that's
You
a little
bought them at two
sus.
different supermarkets. You would kind of think, I mean, unless it was something that you got on vacation or something like that.
Right.
I mean, people nod to you
Oh,
tend to go to the same grocery stores.
well, hello, welcome to my life. And you're
Yes.
10, you may be accosted by people looking for an MLM.
Sometimes multiple times,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, sometimes
but
3
the
times in a
point
row.
is people tend to be creatures of habits, especially with grocery
Yeah.
stores, unless it's a specialty item. And if it's a specialty item, you'd kind of remember where you went to get
You would
that.
remember where you got it, and if, you're mixing it
So
up, you're
that's
thinking about the recipe. Yeah, I agree
again
with you.
not guilt, but that's sus.
It's sussy. Well, Erin also addressed the media reports that had begun surfacing about her lies to the police regarding the food dehydrator. She admitted that while she was at the hospital with her children and ex-husband visiting her sick in-laws, she and the kids had been discussing the food dehydrator. Her ex-husband Simon allegedly even overheard a part of the conversation and asked, quote, "Is that what you used to poison them?" End quote. Erin stated that Simon's comment freaked her out so much that she'd gone home and disposed of the dehydrator then and there. She claimed to be worried that she would lose custody of her children if police began considering her a murder suspect. Let me also pause for a second here and say, from the research we have and and even the quotes that we've both read, I'm not hearing something that sounds very obviously guilty here. Like, okay, yeah, there's some sussy little things that are happening, but the end of the day, like, this isn't that all these details aren't really that far-fetched to me.
It seems normal
Yeah,
outside of the fact that grocery stores tend to not, I would hope, uh, you know, know if they're serving
if
mushrooms that
that's the
could kill
claim.
you,
Right, right.
right, if there's a recall on it, obviously they were killed by it, but
Right, right.
yeah, it all seems kind of normal right
It's
now.
kind of tracking, but Anyway, nonetheless, the letter also included Erin's recount of her husband's stomach illness and hospitalization the previous year. She stated that she'd reluctantly agreed to help care for her Simon after he was discharged, but that she let him know she had no plans to reconcile with him.
But she wanted to, I thought.
But that's what the reports are. So Erin ended the letter by once again expressing her extreme sadness at her in law's passing and her children's loss of their grandparents.
On August 15th, one of Erin's neighbors spoke to the Daily Mail, stating, quote, "It's very common for people to go mushroom picking around that area. The family would go foraging regularly and knew what to pick," end quote. I know people that can actually
I've
like
done that
pick
too.
mushrooms, like,
Yeah,
but like pick either healthy ones to eat or
right,
psychedelic mushrooms, or
right.
they have truffles, something like that. So this obviously is a thing. Now, the same day a local tradesman contacted the media, he'd been hired by Erin the previous year to paint the inside of her home and had an
Oh
odd
boy.
story to share.
Okay.
The tradesman, who wished to remain anonymous, and you'll see
Smart.
why, told the news outlet about a wall in Aaron's home that he and his crew referred to as the Death Wall, which was covered in red and blue doodles resembling children's drawings. Now, the doodles depicted stick figures with the words "I am dead" written next to them,
Ew.
tombstones containing the words "Grandma RIP," "Hannah RIP," and "Me RIP," as well as other macabre images and phrases like "You don't have long to live, 1 hour exactly." What?
That's creepy. Ew. It sounds like it's like if we had a studio, it would probably sound like and look like this.
I'd also
The two
like
of us.
I like
Uncomfy, right?
and paint it. Yeah. Well, the wall was located in the kitchen dining room, which is even weirder. It's not
That
even
is
like in an
weird.
office, like in an attic
A
where you're
rec
hiding it.
room or something, yeah.
So it's located in the kitchen dining room. And when asked, Aaron explained that it was something the kids had done when left unsupervised.
Okay. Well, why are
Don and
they
Gail's
okay.
funeral was held on August 31st. And on September 22nd, after receiving nearly 2 months of medical treatment, Reverend Wilkinson was discharged from the hospital. Okay. The public memorial service for his wife, Heather, took place a few weeks later on October 4th. And on November 2nd, Aaron was arrested and brought to the police station for questioning. Meanwhile, the Australian Federal Police searched her home with the assistance of sniffer dogs. Aaron was charged with 3 counts of murder for the deaths of Grace, Heather, and Don. She was also charged with 5 separate counts of attempted murder for the meal served to Ian, as well as for meals served to her ex husband Simon while they were still living together.
Wow.
A single murder charge in Victoria has a possible maximum sentence of 25 years in prison, and Erin is currently awaiting trial. I don't get what they have on her.
Wow.
I don't really get
Yeah.
it.
I'm not sure. Like again, like because it's Australia, it's hard to say how exactly, are you innocent until proven guilty in Australia? I don't know. We don't know the laws there, but like we do in America. But maybe with the sniffer dogs, they had some sort of evidence. Yeah, it's strange. I mean, at the end of the day, though, I mean, if you think about it, she did confess to serving them the mushrooms that killed them. So is it murder? Is it manslaughter? Are those 2 different things
But
in
if it's
Australia?
accidental,
No, that's what I mean. It's like
yeah, I guess like
involuntary manslaughter.
involuntary
Yeah,
manslaughter,
yeah,
I don't know how you could possibly prove,
right.
because she was sick too. I don't know how you prove that
That's
it
what
was
I mean.
voluntary. I get linking her to it because obviously she
Yeah,
admitted to giving them this, not
that's what I mean. Yeah,
unaware.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how you could kind of go any past that.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
trying to see
very
if there's
strange
anything else
case. Yeah,
like.
Darren's looking up some stuff here on the side while we're discussing it, but anyway, the I think one thing that's important here is maybe we all stop eating mushrooms because if let's take Erin's word at face value here. Let's say that she really was just trying a new recipe and stopped by the Asian market. Is that a risk that we want to take just to have some delicious beef Wellington? I don't think I would.
I mean,
I don't
literally,
think I would.
everyone's just saying that, she's a suspect mainly because she cooked the meal.
Right.
But outside of that, I mean,
Maybe
you
I mean,
know,
maybe there's a big problem going on in the Asian market in terms of mushrooms. I mean, we don't know that for sure or not, you know?
right, especially if it is so you couldn't name the market to me a little bit. Like I think I'd have to know a little bit more because again, how do you
Well,
not know? Like I could pretty much say whether I was
yeah.
even in New York City, which
Yeah, I
is
was
a
gonna say
grocery store
even in
every
New
other block.
York.
Like I feel like I could pick out something.
The only thing I will say on that is like maybe she picked them up a year ago or a long, long time ago. And like maybe she's out on a trip with people, like there are a lot of circumstances where that could make sense. But I don't know. At the end of the day, it's sort of like I'm not convinced that she was trying to murder anybody, to be
Uh,
honest. All the
right.
other
And
weird
like,
stuff with the family and the kids and stuff, I mean, that's certainly, suspicious, but it
and the
doesn't
death
point to
wall, that's
guilt.
that's
Yeah,
also anecdotal.
totally, yeah,
And it could easily have been taken out of context because,
yeah,
like, okay, kids draw weird
for
things.
sure.
You never know. There could have been a million other things on that
Yeah,
wall.
yeah,
Also, it was only this person talking about it. You think the husband would have said something, the ex-husband or the family member or something.
yeah,
Like, you think someone would have, it's in the kitchen dining room. So
yeah.
it just, I don't know. This doesn't feel like justice yet.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, it sounds like this, this case was somewhat recently. I'm trying to find an exact, it looks like 2023, actually. So what about her digital forensics? Like, was she searching mushrooms that kill people? It sounds like
Right.
her ex-husband was allegedly poisoned as well. Like, can we look at her search history? There has to be a way that she was able to find out about these death cap mushrooms. But
It's very odd.
yeah,
It's very
well,
odd. That's
guys,
what it is. Let
let
us know
us
what you think.
know. Yeah, let us know what you think. You can hit us up at Thrasher at Carp Daryn. Facebook group. You can hit us up. Where else, Daryn? Patreon. We've got all
Yes.
types of ways for you to connect with us. But Daryn, let's get to our listener shout outs as we wrap up this week's
Yes,
episode.
Cindy in our Facebook group said, quote, let's get down to the meat and bones. My new phrase. Thank you, John Thrasher, laughing emoji. Mel
Yeah.
also commented on Facebook saying that was hilarious and made me hungry.
I, and I
Not meat
caught
and potatoes, baby, meat and bones. We get
I
down to the meat and bones.
I responded to Cindy and I was like, I don't even remember. I was like, did I say that? I don't even
Yeah,
remember. Yeah.
there you go.
But
There you
sometimes,
go.
speaking of, talk about serving beef Wellington. Let's get down to the meat and bones and the mushrooms.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wanted to give a quick little shout out. I was recently a guest on a podcast called Millennial, where I talked a little bit about Gypsy Rose, Daryn, among other things, all types of topics, but
Gotta
a
listen.
lot about Gypsy Rose. Yeah, and you guys can check it out. You can click the link in our show notes or check out the episode of Millennial titled Gypsy Rose, Stan Culture, and the Inmate to Influencer Pipeline. This show is created by some of my very best friends, Andrew, Laura, and Pam. So it was a really fun episode, and I highly suggest everyone not only listen, but subscribe to their show.
And obviously, if you guys have a case suggestion you'd like us to cover here on the show, you should join us on Patreon. Radish Tears get to submit case suggestions
That's
for us to
right.
consider for full episodes. As long as we don't get sued, we will
We're,
definitely do them.
we'll
And
probably do them. Yeah, let's be
yeah,
honest.
we're not going to get sued. We have no
Yeah,
money. And of course, you get all the bonus content included,
it's true.
include ad-free video podcasts. Excuse me. It's a great value
Yes.
and it helps support the show directly.
Absolutely. You can check us out at patreon.com/shaken and disturbed, or just click the link that's right there in your show notes. Daryn, I think I have a new sign off now. I'm usually saying check your freshies. You know what I'm going to say. Check
What?
your
Oh,
mushrooms.
okay. I've got a new one.
Okay, Daryn, I'm glad you do. Let's hear what it is. You're okay. Check your, oh, wait, I'll let you say it. Oh, oh,
Check.
oh,
Here we go. Check your pits, especially if you have a penis. Just
oh
because I find that
no.
men tend to be the worst. This is what happens when if
When you
if you don't know what I'm
stink.
talking about, you got to listen
Mm-hmm.
to our NMR this past week because I go on a number of different complaints about my workout room in my building, and
A workout room, your
there's
gym,
just savages. Yeah, a gym, fitness center.
your
There are
fitness
just some
center.
animals
Yeah,
around the
well, listen,
world. Let me
if
tell
you're
you.
if you're gonna use the P word here at the end, I will agree with you on this one. This one is true. So
Pits,
yeah, yeah, that one, yeah.
check your pee pee.
Okay. Oh, oh, oh,
Ooh.
there we go. We'll see you guys next time. Bye
Bye.
bye.